What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Movie Emporium's TV review of Snowpiercer Season 3, Episode 8, Setting Itself Right. This episode is directed by Leslie Hope, and as always, if you like this channel, awesome, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium, hit that notification bell top to find what's coming next. If you like this video, awesome, hit that like button as well as commenting below on any video that you watch, including this one. Okay, so... After each great, fantastic, best of the series episodes, there's always going to be that letdown episode that comes right after it because they literally expelled most of their juice for a series or a season or whatever into one episode. So you're always going to have that letdown. You're always going to have that episode that's just not as great. Doesn't make it a terrible episode, but most of the time it's just not as good because that episode came off such a high. And that's unfortunately this episode. It is directed by Leslie Hope, and she still does a nice job, as she always has, like Christoph Schru. But it's just not a very good episode, to be fairly honest. It's actually an episode that made me a little upset on the simple fact of one particular character who just got introduced into the series. And this episode is Layton dealing with the after effects of the afterlife situation that he went in Ouroboros and just the whole situation of that matter. He talks to Ruth about it. He talks to Asha about it. And it's something that's going to affect him in some form or fashion, I'm sure, through the entire series. He talks to Asha about it and shows her the picture because he's looking through the books, but he shows her the picture of what he saw, and she's like, oh yeah, that looks familiar, I saw that on the calendar. So at some point Layton saw it on the calendar. I mean, maybe it's like flashback stuff or vision stuff that he saw, but she tells him, even though he's like very not for like being a leader anymore, she's like, you gotta have hope, you gotta push yourself forward, always keep moving forward, that type of thing. And Layton through this entire episode is just like, I don't know if I can do this, I feel like I've lied to everyone, I feel like I've not told the truth. And really it's just him doubting himself. Whether there's a new Eden or not is not the situation. It's him doubting himself as a leader, which is how the series has always been. You know, his character has always been that individual that thinks he's the guy who can control things, but he really can't. And Wilford has showed him, and Melanie has shown him, and then even the cast and crew, you know, even Pike has shown him, stuff like that. And you know, it really comes to a head in the end of this episode, which we'll talk about. But this episode is all about dealing with our mortality, dealing with the things that have affected us. And you know, it comes down to, they think they found Melanie, which, you know, as I've said through the entire season, as I've talked about it, Melanie's one of those characters that's shown up once in the entire season, and she's on the front page of the poster, and yet there's been nothing about her. She's even in the credits as, you know, a cast member that's been, you know, they don't usually do that if somebody's disappeared or gone from the series. This episode deals with a lot of trauma, I guess you could say. You know, I'm not really gonna do arcs because there's not really an arc thing in this episode, but for instance, you know, John goes to Asha, who is now working in the greenhouse or the planting where they keep all the plants and stuff, edibles and stuff like that, and she is really happy there. And then Ruth's like, I see you're really happy because they have martinis during this incident, and they just talk, and she talks about how, you know, the marauders and the situation she had to deal with, how it's very much a trauma situation, and you understand it, and you appreciate the fact that she is really going through something that's very devastating, and her character's, you know, finally growing on us, and then something happens, which we'll talk about. I did like those moments with Asha and Layton and Ruth. I think Ruth's an individual that's gone through some serious trauma, PTSD trauma with Pike and stuff like that, and she's trying to find her way through the system. She's like, we all have our place in this world, we all have our way we do things. And there's just some really nice moments with Ruth talking to Layton and Asha. And then, you know, when they decide, you know, going back to the engineer stuff, when they decide they're going to go to find Melanie, they had to make an announcement that they're going to make a detour because they think Melanie is still alive, that type of thing. There's always, you know, as this show needs to do, there's always doubt. You know, Bennett, who's in love with Melanie, is, you know, they're the couple or whatever. He has serious doubt that she is still alive, but there's been like reports, or there's been dings or boops, whatever you want to call it, were these automated like track devices, or kind of smallish trains, I guess you could say, that's the easiest way to put it, have been operating, but they don't feel like there's any way Melanie could have survived on that type of thing. But in the process of everything that's going on, they have to decide what they're going to do. But Aleks, you know, who kind of made the decision through Wilford, tells Layton that it was Wilford that made the decision. So Layton, of course, being the pessimist, or not pessimist, being very suspect, suspect of Wilford goes and talks to Wilford, and they have their conversation. Wilford is really against this new Eden thing. He thinks it's a scam of what sorts, but he's kind of right. It really is kind of a little bit. But he notices that Layton's very not himself and the things he's gone through. He knows about, the whole Pike situation and stuff like that. And Wilford's an individual that might play that against Layton, but he makes the observation that they need Melanie, if she's still alive, as a train engineer, somebody who could really get this thing forward to New Eden, if there's such a thing. And it leads them to what is the main crux of this episode, or the main situational moment of this episode, where in essence they are going down the track to Colorado, which is where Melanie unfortunately was left behind, which is going to play in a big factor, I'm sure, in the next episode. This is when there's this environmental device that of course Sasha has, which she's never had. We've never seen it before until just now, when it becomes a major plot device. It's the unfortunate nature of these things that happen. But she basically tells them there's a lot of sulfur in there, sulfuric acid. And Wilford is brought up to the train car to find out what's going on. It's very much a volcanic style of sulfuric acid and the wind. What Bennett ends up seeing and what Layton ends up seeing and all that good stuff is that they are going to go through a sulfuric acid cloud, which could severely damage Snowpiercer, which is, it's kind of convenient. It's kind of ironic. It's one of those things where, this episode let me stop myself here. Snowpiercer, this show needed an episode to go back to the same tropes that they deal with, where something could affect Snowpiercer, because if you don't do these episodes, it makes Snowpiercer look invincible, and Snowpiercer's a man-made train, so they have to find themselves around this sulfuric cloud, which is just a way and a plot device to make the story in that season 10 episodes, because they can't apparently do 10 episodes of storytelling. They have to have that one episode where Snowpiercer's in serious trouble, so they decide that the scrubbers, the air purifier scrubbers and stuff like that, will be just fine. But as we know, that's not how this works. So they go through the sulfuric acid cloud and stuff like that. They tell everybody to get in their rooms. Bess is with Audrey. They're having noodles. There's a connection now with Bess and Audrey, with a romantic connection or whatever, a friendly connection or whatever, and they're eating noodles, and Sam comes walking by telling everybody they need to get to their rooms, blah, 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 blah. And in the process of everything, Bess and Audrey go to the Bess's quarters. Bess is asking if they need help, and she feels like she's not being used well enough, which could lead into another Pike scenario. Who knows? We'll see what happens. But I don't mind Audrey and Bess. You got to give Bess something to do because she is a major character in the show. But I feel like this is just kind of thrust in there to just be a story arc that's going to play out interestingly or whatever. And Bess is having doubts about her leadership abilities because she doesn't seem to want to be used for her abilities and stuff like that. So Audrey, who has these abilities, these kind of special powers, I guess, because it is a sci-fi show, uses it on Bess to allow Bess to kind of heal, because she imagines herself never being able to get out of the fact that she was not a good person. She's become a good person. Audrey tell her that, and she shows her that, and there's some really disturbing imagery with, of course, Bess and all that good stuff. And it kind of allows Bess and Audrey to have a story moment, a story beat, and they're kind of sitting there, looking at one another and hugging one another. They're friends apparently now. They're kind of outcasts that have become kind of close knit, I guess you could say. And it's a nice little piece to the story. It doesn't hamper it at all. It's another kind of easy plot convenience to have Audrey and Bess become important in a thing that they're not important in at the moment. So until the importancy of their characters come to effect. But the other thing is LJ and John, who also are giving a plot point for convenience, is John wants some peppers because he decides he's going to grow his own farm of some sort, so they have food if there becomes a problem. LJ doesn't like this. She feels like if they find Melanie, and the fact that she's always been able to keep in the know, and now she isn't, she finds her way to the doctor, the Wilford doctor, whatever, and she wants to find information on Wilford, what's going on, this whole situation. This is where we get our typical Snowpiercer disgusting moment where she offers to give LJ information, but she needs some of LJ's skin to do tests on for skin cells and stuff like that. And it's not a comfortable moment to watch, to be fairly honest. I mean, the little roller thing that she uses to peel the skin off is I'm not gonna show a picture of it, but it's not easy to watch. It really isn't. And I think the doctor and the LJ are gonna be working together and stuff like that. And then On top of that, of course, Wilford, after his use is done in this kind of segment with the train going through the sulfuric thing, while Layton's taking care of that whole situation, of course, Zara with the baby goes to talk to Wilford. And this is where we kind of learn that Zara has some respect for Wilford, and she feels like their conversations were well said. And there's a whole situation where Wilford's talking about trying to find out the baby is cold compatible. Like if they threw the baby out, and I'm not saying don't do that, but they threw the baby out into the cold, it would be fine. And Zara doesn't feel like it's the right time to do that type of thing. So that's an interesting character arc, but we've seen that earlier in the season. So we'll see how that plays out. But in the process of everything, we're all kind of, there's not a lot to talk about in this episode, but there's just enough to keep the episode going. This leads to, like I said, we have to have the moment where there's something wrong with Snowpiercer, and that happens with the fact that some of the scrubbers, the air scrubbers, are not working properly, and they find themselves in the green room destroying all the plants and food. It's making its way down the train because it'll affect like all the food and the cows and whatever food they have left and stuff like that. So Javier and Sykes are down there, and you see the effects of the dog with Javier and that whole situation that happened last few episodes. Javier is just, he's an individual that just can't. He's trying to get past his whole PTSD with the dog, and they go into the greenhouse cart and they see all the plants are dying. They see it's very smoky with the sulfuric acid. They call Layton, and Layton has Asha go with him to try and fix the situation, because all Javier and Sykes have are just these masks, but they need suits to kind of fix the problem. So Javier actually saves Sykes, which is nice, gives her CPR, and it just feels like a nice moment for Javier to move past his whole PTSD. But this is where it comes down to the thing that made me kind of, excuse my language, piss me off a lot about what Snowpiercer tends to do sometimes. Asha and Layton are wearing their full-size suits. They walk into the greenhouse car. I call it the greenhouse car, but it's where they're growing plants and stuff like that. And they have to fix the scrubber manually, which, where this is leading, but they have to fix the scrubber manually. They pull out all the things, all the refresher things, and the only way to fix it manually is to open up this compartment, and they have to use a crowbar, but the compartment's too small, so somebody's going to have to get out of their suit to go down there and probably going to die in the process. Well, it isn't going to be Layton, because Layton's an important character, so who are we going to have? But none other than Asha, who's going to go down there, and she fixes the problem. And the sulfuric acid has basically killed her. She's dying, and she tells Layton to, in the process of everything, to her see New Eden. So he kind of explains what New Eden is, what he feels like it is, to help her kind of move on to death and stuff like that. And she dies. Now, before I get truly angry about this, and I try to keep myself calm when these things happen, but there are moments in TV shows, and especially in Snowpiercer, where they do stuff that's very aggravating. And I know it's a show, I know it deals with, and it's a show that has, it's about a train in the middle of a snowstorm and stuff like that. And I know you kind of get invested in these shows, but Archie Panjabi is an individual and actress who was brought in seemingly like a new important character to the show. And the fact of her dying is not the problem. If she died at the end of the season, that's fine. It's just the way that things work. It's the simple fact that her character never really got an actual arc. She got a little bit here or there where she progressed to being happy, but I really think they did this character dirty. I think the writers really did this character really bad, to be fairly honest. And I think it's a testament to sometimes not having the writers know what they want out of characters. We saw this last season with Layton's character, where they completely just did him dirty through the entire season, and it's problematic. It's stupid. What was even the whole point of Asha was just to put doubt into Layton's character that he was telling the truth about New Eden. This gets her off the hook of the whole situation of her lying about being at New Eden. Even Wilford calls her out on it. In the end, it's a terribly written character. It's terribly arced character, and it's just a character that wasn't given any justice or anything. She's just dead now for no reason other than this situation that is absolutely insulting to this show, where we have to have that moment where we had to put Snowpiercer in danger again, and they kill off a character that didn't even need to be killed off. There's no point in Asha's character being killed off. This was an absolutely stupid decision on the writing staff, and I don't get why they did it. I don't understand why they did it, and I just feel like they're, you make the other characters sad, but why are they sad? They should be angry that, if well, I guess they shouldn't be angry because they are written characters, but it's insulting to watch a show that just kind of undermines the intelligence of the characters themselves and just makes Asha just pretty much a one and done character that comes in and dies quickly. And I thought that's poor storytelling writing. I really did. I thought everything about it was stupidly done. I thought the whole idea of just this conveniently small hole is the only way to get into it. And I'm not saying build technology and cars and stuff like that, it's really difficult to work on stuff. But you gotta do better. It's so frustrating. And then on top of that, there's a whole moment with the doctor who apparently Icy Bob may be still alive. I don't know. A hand reaches up and it looks like Icy Bob's hand. But it really brought down a season that was really doing pretty well. There has been some moments in the season, especially with Pike's character, where I was a little off-put, but when you do something like this and you insult the idea of the Snowpiercer show with killing off a character that actually had some intriguing interest to a show like this to bring it kind of up a little bit, with the whole concept of like PTSD and going through trauma and stuff like that. And yeah, should be looked upon as a hero, but they're going to forget about her next season. You're never going to hear about her again, or you may hear like off the cuff sayings every once in a while, but I don't know. Layton's character is getting the real bad shift on this series. It seems to be putting more and more trauma in as the series moves along, and I don't like it. I don't like it at all. It really kind of ruined this episode, to be fairly honest. I can get past the whole idea of the sulfuric storm because it really is a convenient moment for Asha and her Geiger device, as I call it. I don't know. I hope the penultimate episode in the season finale worked way better than this episode did, because you can tell that they really didn't know they didn't know what to do for this episode. They were just like, maybe kill off Asha. I don't know. So with that said, that is pretty much where the episode lies. They do find Melanie's beacon symbol, and we actually, pan out in a very CGI moment onto a smaller train, I guess you could say, that's moving along the tracks. And I'm assuming that's where they're going to find Melanie. And Melanie's picture is in one of the photos of the next episode, so I'm assuming she's in the next episode. But with that said, this is a very disappointing episode. It has a character that had a lot of progression, and they just killed off without giving any kind of real good story arcs, and she disappeared for an episode 2 as well. And it's not a very good episode. It really isn't. It's probably the weakest episode of the season so far, and to kill off Asha like that is a travesty. So, and I guess the episode's title, which is Snowpiercer Season 3, Episode 8, setting itself right. I guess it's setting itself back on course. We're getting Melanie back. We lost Asha. It's back to the same crew again, doing the same old typical stuff. So, for a score, I'm giving it a 6.5 out of 10. Like everything wasn't terrible in the episode, but it really did not help itself by killing off Asha. It really set itself as a not great episode, probably one of the weaker episodes of the series so far. So that's where I stand, a 6.5 out of 10 on this episode, which is of Season 3 of Snowpiercer, which was really good at this point. So anyways, with that said, that'll do it. That'll be my take on this episode of Snowpiercer. Let me know in the comments below what you think about Asha's death. What do you think about the whole entire episode? If you like the episode, if you were moved, that's perfectly all right. I can't discount you for that, but I just really had problems with it. So anyways, let me know in the comments. But otherwise, if you like what you see on the channel, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that like button if you like any of these videos, and notification bell at the top to find out what's coming next. And as always, we'll see you guys on the next episode of Snowpiercer. Peace out.